Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a different video. Usually I do vlog style videos, but today is going to be a sit down and talking video. So today we're going to be talking about tips for incoming freshmen, or just basically advice that I wish I knew before I entered my first year of college. So a little bit about me is I'm going to be a sophomore in the fall, and I attend the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and I am also a advertising major. Okay, so tip number one is to go out, explore, and get involved. That basically means that for like the first month, try to make as many friends as you can. So some things that me and my roommate did was during move-in week, we would just leave our door open, and then anyone that would pass by, we would say hi to, or sometimes people would even come into our room and just talk to us because they would be trying to make friends as well. And then, for example, another way you can make friends is to join clubs and just get involved with the school. So attend football games, attend sports games, attend anything like that, and then just explore campus. You never know what could happen. So it's just like really important to just go out, step out of your comfort zone, and say yes to anything. So just do that for the first month or so, and you'll be set on making friends and just getting to know other people. Tip number two is to be organized and stick to a schedule. It's really important for you to have a planner or like a Google Calendar or something. I use Google Calendar, and then also I use a planner on my iPad, and just like know what your goals are for the day. Make sure you know when your tests are coming up. Make sure you know what assignments are due by the end of the week. Make sure to make time for studying and stick to a schedule. So know that on Mondays and Wednesdays you study for math, and that on Tuesdays and Thursdays you study for a media class or something like that. Just make sure that you know what your goals are and make sure that you accomplish them. Tip number three is to sleep. Make sure that you prioritize your sleep. Get a good night's rest every day, and just make sure that you're actually sleeping and not just going out every night. For example, for me, I used to be one that would be in bed by like 9:30 p.m. But once I moved in, I wasn't going to bed until like midnight or sometimes even 1 in the morning. So it's just like important to make sure that you prioritize your sleep, because that will affect you in the long run. Tip number four is to be a good roommate/neighbor. You're obviously going to be living with someone else, or maybe even 2 or 3 other people. And it's just important that you make sure you're respectful towards them. So like make sure you respect their space, their emotions, their time, and their energy. There might be conversations where you're like, hey, I don't like this, or they say, hey, I don't like this. And just make sure that you actually change and respect their boundaries. And make sure that you guys do like take turns cleaning the room, taking out the garbage, and just simple things like that that can lead to arguments. And you don't want it to be awkward, because then you're going to be feeling uncomfortable in your own room. So it's just important to respect each other's space. Along those lines is also being a good neighbor. Well, for me personally, I had a neighbor that was so obnoxious. He was always playing video games, and he would literally scream and yell. And sometimes I would be trying to study, or I would be trying to film, or I would even be trying to take a nap. And I would just hear him banging on the desks, banging on the tables. And yes, my roommate did go and like knock on his door and be like, oh, I'm trying to sleep, or I'm trying to do this. Like, could you be quieter? And he would never change. And that was just something that annoyed us the whole year. So it's just important for you to not be that person. Just be respectful, don't be too loud. And most dorms do have quiet hours, is what they call them. So that's like, from 10 p.m. to like 10 a.m. it has to be like quiet. No one should be yelling too loud. No one should be playing too much music. And that does help. Tip number 5 is to do what's best for you and prioritize it yourself. So yourself and your mental health should always come first. Make sure that you know what your goals are. And like, obviously you're in college to further your education and to get that college degree. So don't be like, oh, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Like, yes, it's okay to go out, but it's to like a certain point. and you don't want to like jeopardize your future. Tip number 6 is to go on a Rate My Professor. So when you're choosing classes, just go ahead and search ratemyprofessor.com. You can go on there, select your school, and then search up the professor's name. And that will have ratings and like reviews, kind of like when people review a restaurant or a product. It'll say like 4 out of 5 stars, 3 out of 5 stars. And then it'll also have little bios of past students that have taken their class, and it'll say like, oh, this was my experience, it was good, or this was my experience, it was bad. So just make sure you go and Rate My Professor, especially if it's a class that's offered by 2 different professors. So for example, let's say you're signing up for your math class and it's offered by Professor A and Professor B. Go ahead and search both professors on Rate My Professor, and whichever professor has the better reviews, just sign up for their class instead of the other professor's class. And your experience will be so much better than if you would have signed up for the other professor. Tip number 7 is to take advantage of your opportunities. Obviously, you're in college. There's going to be so many more things for you to do, literally so many more clubs for you to join, so many friends to make. So just take advantage of literally everything that the school has to offer because you are paying for it. Tip number 8 is to don't be afraid to ask for help. Some people find it embarrassing to go to office hours, which if you don't know what office hours is, it's like a time during the week that the professor has where you can just come in, ask them questions. If you have an upcoming exam, you can be like, oh, what does this mean? What does this mean? How do you do this problem? Just simple things like that. And some people find it embarrassing to go to office hours. Just because you're going to office hours doesn't mean that you're dumb. It's just an opportunity for you to connect with your professor, and that will help you in the long run. If you need like them to round your grade, or if you need a letter of recommendation, your professor is more than willing to help you if they actually have a connection with you. Tip number 9 is to go to class. Once you start skipping, it's going to become a habit and you're never going to want to go back to class. So just make sure that you go to class, unless obviously you're sick. If you're just skipping to skip, then literally just go to class. It doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter what you're doing or what you have to do, just go to class. Because then you're gonna fall behind, or you're gonna have to be messaging people like, oh, what did we do in class today? And things like that, and you don't want to be that person that's like always messaging someone like, oh, like how was class? What did we do? Like, no, literally just go to class. Tip number 10 is to find a study partner. Easy way to do this is on the first day of class, or even the first couple days of class, they're gonna be like, introduce yourself to your neighbor, or introduce yourself to the person sitting in front of you. They're gonna be like, oh, my name is this is my major, I'm from this is my hometown, and just simple things like that. And that is literally the best opportunity for you to be like, oh, what's your Snapchat? What's your Instagram? For whenever you need to study, or whenever you have a question about the class, and then also whenever you have an upcoming test, you'll be able to study with them. Okay, tip number 11 is to learn to be okay alone. I've met some people that are scared to go to the dining hall alone. They're scared to go on the bus alone. They're scared to do really anything by themselves. Most of the time they're like, oh, I don't want people to think that I'm a loner. I don't want people to think that I have no friends. But honestly, no one really cares. Like, no one pays that much attention to you because there's just so much going on and there's so many other people that no one is gonna notice if you're walking alone. No one's gonna notice if you're eating dinner alone. Like, it might be scary the first 2-3 couple times. And it's just important to be okay with your own company and to not always require someone else to be with you. Tip number 12 is to learn the bus system. During Welcome Week, there might be like an event that you don't want to go to, or there might just be a day that doesn't have an event. And that day is really important for you to just go on the bus, see where it takes you, try to get from point A to point B, and just learn the routes that the buses take. So just things like that are going to help you a lot during your first week of classes. And like that, you will feel less scared when it is your first week of actual classes, and you'll have more of an idea of what you're doing and where you're going. Also, a little tip is when you're on the buses, some people had never been on a bus before, but when you are on a bus, if you've never been on one before, if you need to stop at the next stop, make sure you pull, it's like a little wire on the windows, make sure you pull the wire, and that lets the bus driver know that someone needs to get off at the next stop. Because some people forget to do that and then they have to end up walking like an extra 5 or 10 minutes just because they didn't pull the little wire. I know my school, the University of Illinois, has a really good bus system, and it's like really easy to use. Like once you use it for like a day or two, you should get the hang of it. And if not, the bus drivers do always know where they're going, and if you have any questions, you can just ask them. Okay, tip number 13 is to buy headphones. Literally everyone that I know or everyone that I see walking to classes, studying, they have headphones. So it's good for you to just buy them now before you realize like, oh, I'm gonna need them. So it literally does not matter which headphones you get. I just recommend you get soundproof ones, so that like that, if there's a group sitting next to you, you can just put them on and you literally won't be able to hear them. The headphones that I have are the Beats headphones, which are soundproof. And then my boyfriend has the Sony headphones, and then my roommate has the Apple headphones. But make sure you try them on and make sure you get headphones, basically. And tip number, I think we're on 14, is to know your tech. So something that I do is like the week or 2 weeks before school starts, before I even move in, is I go on my iPad, because I have an iPad and a MacBook. So I go on my iPad and I figure out what way I want to take notes. And then I also go on my MacBook and I figure out what way I want to take notes on there, and how I'm gonna use my planner and how I'm gonna use my calendar. So me personally, I use Google Calendar on my MacBook, and then I use GoodNotes on my iPad. And I mostly take notes on my iPad, and I complete my homework on my MacBook. Know what your computer or what your technology is capable of, and make sure you basically just take advantage of it. And tip number 15 is to walk your classes. So during welcome week, my roommate and I, we went and we walked all of our classes, and the buildings should be open. I know at my college, the buildings are open usually the first full week before classes start. So you can literally go into the building, go find your classroom, and actually go into your classroom. Just walk your classes, go with your roommate, go with a group of friends, or even go by yourself. And just make sure that you know like where you're going, so that you're not completely lost on the first couple of days. Tip number 16 is to get a waterproof backpack. That is something that I did not think about, but there's gonna be some days where you're walking to class and it just starts pouring, and maybe you forgot your umbrella. So get a waterproof backpack, because it has happened to me where I'm walking back to my dorm from my class and it just starts pouring, and my backpack wasn't waterproof at the time. So that's why this year I'm making sure to get a waterproof backpack. And I also didn't have my umbrella. So it just started downpouring and my backpack got soaked. And any projects, any papers, any electronics that you have in your backpack could get ruined just because you don't have a waterproof backpack. And then lastly is tip number 17, never go out alone. So what I mean by this is, if you're going to a party, if you're going out at night, or if you're even just going to the bars or something, try not to go by yourself, especially if you're going off campus. Typically, if you're on campus, like in the class buildings at night, or like studying at night in one of the school buildings on campus, you're fine. Like there's bus stops right away. You can get on a bus, go back to the dorm, and then there's always a lot of people around. But especially if you're going off campus or to a party or to a bar where there's going to be people drinking, it's extremely important that you never go by yourself. Take at least 1 or 2 people with you, just so that if something happens, you have someone else there with you. I got lucky enough to get a good group of friends that once one of us leaves, another person goes with them. We never let anyone go by themselves. So for example, my roommate, if she wants to leave, some other guy or some other girl will go with her. And if I want to stay, then some other person will stay with me. Or if we all decide we're leaving, we're all leaving, no questions asked. If we all decide that we're staying, we're all staying, no questions asked. We never split apart from each other, and we never let one person go by themselves or stay by themselves. There's always at least one other person with each other. So that's just really important, because it's just for your safety. That's all the tips that I have for you guys today. But if you guys have any other questions, just comment them down below and I'll be sure to reply to you guys. I'm really quick with replying, and then you guys can also DM me for like any links or any other questions that you have. And I'll put my social medias on the screen, because some of you guys have been messaging me with questions, or you guys have been asking me for links to some of the furniture that I have been like posting on my socials. So you guys can just feel free to message me and I will try to get back to you guys as soon as I can. Thank you guys for watching and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.